we at work decided to hop on, chop it up with individuals. See what's the talk of the town is going down the one on the curve. You heard me? It's a beautiful day here in Southern California. Nice warm day with a breeze. So it's lovely. Perfect day to be enjoying it. But you know how it goes right here. We always gotta hustle. Just set this up real quick. Okay. Whoopsie. Now, for those who are curious, I did drop a new video on this channel, right? Pretty much breaking down what exactly is the battle rap reactions, right? And why sometimes the requests that people, request to me don't get put out there. Because when you're dealing with music, it's a very, YouTube's rules with music is very complex. I think the music part of YouTube is the most complex part or the most complex shit that there could be when we're talking about jigs, right? Because there's so much, crap to it. And one of the reasons why people tend to avoid, the music when it comes to YouTube. What up, easy, bro? Shot gang, how's work going? A toda madre, carnal. How about yourself? And on my other channel, I am dropping battle rap reactions later on today, hoping that one actually goes through. We're hoping that one will go through. Sometimes there's, people are cool a toda madre, right? But then there's some people that are insecure, right? Those are the ones that give us a hard time. You're being a pinguino again? All the time, my boy. Puro Eskimo. Puro pinche polar bear. Pero not the ones from Blood In, Blood Out. See, that would happen to you if you was with Daddy way, huh? Well, there's a ray of sunshine under all that dark meat. Suave L. The only movie that fool came out in. I just realized that fucking Miklo's the fool that plays fucking pinche Ken Street Fighter. The movie Street Fighter with fucking, what's that fool's name? Pinche Shaw Clark Van Damme. That Miklo was Ken in that movie. That's funny. He went from playing Ken in Street Fighter to one of the downest vatos in all of East LA. One of the head honchos. He went from Hadougets to fucking Placazos. Placazos. What's cracking like Mr. Pasa definitely up in the casa? I was like, what? Somebody had pointed it out to me and I scoped it out and I was like, oh shit, that fool is Ken from Street Fighter. That's funny. It's a trip. You look like Eddie Hall. Eddie Hall? Who's Eddie Hall? What's cracking like an angel? What's good, carnal? Greetings. Shout out. Greetings from California. I have a question. What is the biggest? You guys are too much. Said hi. Hello there. All my friends drive a lowrider. Do they? That's cool. Lowriders are nice. Some of the best vehicles that there is, in my personal opinion, because I know other people like, different kinds of cars, right? Like street racing cars. Some people like muscle cars. Muscle cars are nice too. It just depends, right? Because some people like cars because of the looks, and then other people like cars because of the speed. So I guess it just depends. They be acting like they don't. They be acting like they can't get it. They be acting like they can't get it. Damn. My boy ain't playing. I work handling trying to find out a second highlight. I feel you, my boy. Don't trip. Something along the way will come. He said, what is it? What conspiracy sounds crazy, but you believe to be true? That's the thing. Um, I actually have to know that it's true. I'm not. I don't really. I'm not really into like I like conspiracies, right? But I like to do the what you might call it the my homework on them, right? So if they're just not real, you know what I mean? Like the whole like if it's outlandish, for example, then I just don't believe in those whatsoever, right? But if it's plausible, then yeah, I mean, look at MK Ultra. Not only that one, but several of the ones that turned out to be true, right? That the government was doing. Um, it just happens that that was the most interesting one, though. That one is a trip, though. But there's been other ones, right? Like I forgot the name of the other one where they released was it a virus by the San Francisco Bay, right? And just to see what was people's people pretty much people were their guinea pigs without their knowledge, right? They got people sick and a few of them died. I think 13 people died, right? And then they kept that hidden for a while. So that one was a trip. You know what I mean? But like the whole Illuminati and all that, see, those are or the like the ones where they say that the celebrities kill kids and drink their bloods and that shit is all goofy shit, right? Or the reptilians, that's like because those conspiracies don't even make they fall apart with even the most smallest, you know, with the most smallest question you have, they fall apart, right? Like, um, it's like people don't really think them through, I guess. They give people like these amazing powers, but yet they have them do the most stupidest shit with them. Right? Like they give them all these abilities, but yet they have them doing the most stupidest task with them. Here's a trip. What's your favorite food? My favorite food is mole. Did you ever grow up watching the movie Predator with Arnold? Oh yeah, I grew up watching all those movies, bro. The Arnold's and the Sylvester Stallone and the Jean-Claude Van Damme and the even the biggest liar of them all, Steven Seagal. I don't like his movies though, but even his all the old action stars, all the ones that come out of the Expendables. Are you gay? No, I'm actually happily married to my wife. Uh, Here to serve, boss. Drunk T-shirt gang all the way, bro. You already know, homie. We keep it loyal to the soil or to the fabric. What's good, my boy? Good to see you. That you still around. Step it up in here. Double tap the screen. Yeah, hit them likes and the subscribe. It helps. What are your thoughts on vacation people who their bodies to look like? Um, you know, to me, in my personal opinion, it seems like they're seeking attention, right? Seems it seems like they crave attention, because people only do shit like that to try to stand out, right? You know what I mean? Like when they take extreme, measures like that. But like I said, that's just my opinion. I'm not saying that that's facts. What do you think about? He says Buick Regals. If I had, um, ito. Oh yeah, I feel you, bro. Yeah, or a 1969 Chevy Impala. Hello, how do I get Jesus to come in me, and what does it feel like? Has everyone here Jesus inside of them? Well, I don't know. I'm not religious, so I don't believe in none of that, right? Not to say that, I mean, if that's what people believe, hey, I tip my hats off to people, right? It's just not, it's not what I view, right? I'm more of a man of science. I believe just in science and, evolution and, you know, but I don't knock people who do choose to believe in religion, right? People get to believe in whatever they want to, and rightfully so. like, see, like, one of the more crazier ones that, because I'm not a person who believes like in ghosts and the supernatural, right? But I do believe in aliens, right? And then people be like, well, that's even crazier. And it's like, no, well, because aliens is actually plausible. That's not to say that I believe that they come here, kidnap people, and experiment, but I mean that they exist out there, right? Because the chances of that is more, likely than the chances of ghosts. You know what I mean? There's more evidence, that this would most likely be true than that, right? Now, when people say that they've been kidnapped by them, and I don't believe those people. I believe in um extraterrestrials, but just not in the stories that these people say, right? Because whenever they tell their stories, they always give them from the from the from a human's perspective, right? Like, because who's to say that they have to have eyes and arms and legs? You know what I mean? I mean, they're aliens. We don't know what the fuck they would look like, But when people always describe them, they always describe them like like how they look in movies or how a human would describe them, right? And it's like, well, we truly don't know what the fuck they would look like. Who says they have to have this and that, right? Um, and like I said, it just doesn't line up with like saying that they come over here to try to, some of them said that they even ate their relatives and shit like that, and it's like, in order for you to travel from from a galaxy, because obviously they wouldn't be in our solar system because these planets don't have life in them, right? But outside of our solar system, in order for them to be able to travel that distance, they would have to be highly intelligent, more intelligent than us, right? They have to be way smarter than us, because we can't even do that, right? So these people are able to travel, with technology that we can't even be able to fathom, right? So they're way ahead of us, advance. So they're going to travel that. They have to be intelligent, right? They have to be able to know how to pilot a ship and all of that, right? But yet they would come here to be mindless creatures and mindless monsters that just want to eat us. Like, that just doesn't make any sense. Obviously, they have to have food and all that, to make the travel or whatever, right? Like, so, like, it just doesn't make any sense. Like, how are they these mindless creatures, but yet intelligent enough to pilot ships and be able to come up with the equipment to even make that journey, right? Like, this, it's stupid, bro. We have mindless, creatures here too. You have lions, bears, like putting them in a spaceship and have them pilot it. you know, they have to have obviously intelligence to them, right? And if they're intelligent, then they're not going to behave in this manner. Just, I don't know. People are tripping. And what it is that movies plant too many ideas in people's heads. And a lot of people suffer from a lot of, disabilities that they're not even aware of, right? People could be schizophrenic. They could have paranoid personality disorder. There could be multiple reasons, for why people get drawn into that kind of stuff. And they just don't realize that they have some form of, illness, right? So a lot of people out there who have paranoid personality disorder, they don't even, they're not even aware of it, right? And when you trick those people into believing you, right, like a lot of these, radical extremist groups do, you get a lot of individuals to do a whole lot of crazy shit. It's a trip. Hulk Hogan's acting skills on movies suck. Oh yeah, he definitely sucked in movies. It's because he thought just because he was a wrestler that he could pull it off in the big screen. But you can't compare your little promo, your what is it, like a minute long promo, compared to you actually acting in a whole entire movie. It's not the same thing. But the reason he kept getting so many movies is just because he was a name a lot of people knew. He had a lot of fame to him, right? People just want to draw that. Heard he's. What's your favorite drink? Cactus Cooler. What do you think? What do you think? There's a reason why some people, all kind of animals, come to them, and others no. What do you mean? Like You mean like animals are more friendly with them than with other people? I don't actually think that that's actually the case, right? Because animals don't tend to have that part of the brain, like they don't have, you know, their prefrontal cortex. They don't even have a prefrontal cortex, right? That's so they just wouldn't. They don't have the. Even though animals are intelligent, right? They just don't have the part of the brain like a human does, right? That has us being able to rationalize things, right? This is another. Who wins 200? This is who wins 200 gay men or one silver. Who wins 200 gay men or one silver back gorilla? Do the men have weapons? Or is it just their fists? Why gay men though? Would it be different if it was a regular man? I mean, silverback gorillas are very, very aggressive. They're very, very powerful. They're not, confrontational like that, right? Only if you provoke them. Only if they feel like they're being provoked, right? Like you should never look them directly in their eyes. Like don't ever stare at them. Like that's the worst thing you can do. The worst thing you can do to any animal is stare at them. Because then their animal instinct kicks in and they think that you're challenging them, right? So then they're gonna attack you. If you don't look at them, there's a better chance that they won't even pay attention to you. Isn't that a trip? It's fascinating how like the brains work on not just humans but even animals. Like even when you're walking, like let's say down an alley or street or whatever, right? If there's like a dog, whatever, if you stare at the dog's way, most likely he's gonna start barking at you, right? But if you just keep walking forward and don't acknowledge the dog, he's most likely not even gonna pay attention to you, right? But as soon as you stare at him, he's most likely gonna bark at you. It's fascinating. Do you feel like creatures? Oh, do you feel like cultural norms and in societies would be kind of similar, like family values, morals, and stuff like that? I don't know. I don't know. It just depends on their planet or how they even work, right? Like, who's to say they even have to have males and females, right? They could probably reproduce in different ways, right? Or their bodies probably function in different ways, right? They probably don't even have to. They probably don't even need limbs like us, right? Just depends, right? It's just that we wouldn't be able to comprehend that, right? Just because we're just not there yet, right? We're just not, we're not that advanced yet. And the thing is that there's billions of different planets out there. There's billions, right? And Earth is one of the more newer planets in the solar system, right? So now, us being one of the more newer planets in the solar system, and now at the time frame that we're at now, we're able to send rovers to Mars in just a short amount of time of humans being here on this planet. So, like, let's say from here to a billion years from now, how advanced are we be, right? So it's not so far fetched to think that if we're one of the more newer planets and now these planets are older, that they have advanced to the level to be able to travel, right? Because like I said, we're able to send now rovers. I mean, if you were to go back in the days and tell them that we have rovers in Mars, people would think that would never happen, or that's crazy, right? They would think that that's like so ahead and advanced, right? When it hasn't even been long, and we're able to do that. So who's to say that these other people can't even travel over here if they've been around billions of years longer than us? So it's more plausible. I'm not saying that it is. I'm just saying that the chances of it being more likely to be true than you dying and actually becoming a spirit. I mean, you know, when there's no evidence to back this one up. People were like, well, what's the evidence to back up there's life on other planets? Like, do you not see us, my guy? Do you not see yourself? Go look in the mirror. Ta-da! Evidence. My guy. Like, people can't say that people have maybe thought they had seen a ghost, right? But it's not, you know, in order for me to believe that ghosts exist, right? You would have to have proof that the ghost actually, that you sat down with the ghost and you chopped it up with him. Like, he sat with you right there, you had a conversation, you know? But just because you see something at the corner of your eye or something, you know, quickly, or you thought, or it could have been something, you know what I mean? And like I said, ghost stories were so, you know, the norm before, right? But as technology has gotten better, and now there's cameras everywhere in everybody's pockets and ring doors and everything like that, you notice that the less ghost stories that there is now, the less, you know, footage that there is now, because it could be now dissected, right? So you don't have people telling these tales as much no more, because they know they could be caught in the lies, right? That's why you don't hear about them as much as you used to, right? Because now, you know, people are gonna be like, well, what are the fucking cameras? And then, like I said, the footage that is out there, right? There's always something wrong with it, right? Like, people manage to get the best pictures on their fucking Facebook, Instagram, and all of this and that. But yeah, every time there's, you know, these pictures or these videos or these ghostly thing, whatever, there's always something to them, right? Like, oh, you can't really see, or it's fuzzy. It's just like, yeah, of course it is. Why wouldn't it be, right? But every other fucking video you take is all perfect. But there's always got to be a catch to these kind of videos, huh? There's always something. It's always something. And like I said, and just people's breakdown of even ghosts doesn't even make any sense to me, right? Like the supernatural ones, right? When people say that, you know, their fucking tables and dishes fly from across the room, and it's like, okay, so they have the ability to pick up objects, because you say they pick up tables and everything like that. Okay, so what do you feel is like their objective? They're trying to scare you out of the house. Then why don't they pick you up and, you know, throw you out, right? Because from what you're telling me, they could pick up solid objects like tables and shit like that, right? So they have the ability to pick you up and throw you, right? If they want to get their message across, why wouldn't they just do that, right? Or why wouldn't they just do it like when you guys are sitting right there and you guys are seeing it, if that's their goal, right? And if they are trying to scare you, what would be the reason for that? You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. And people have been dying for a long time, right? So why is it that only certain houses have ghosts and not other houses? Why is it that only certain? You get what I mean? It just doesn't make any sense, bro. And people can't even say, well, it's the bad people. No, there's a lot of bad people on this planet, bro. So we would have ghosts literally everywhere. You know what I mean? So it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Like, even if you just give it the most smallest of thought. But like I said, these are just my opinions. You can believe it in what you want. I'm just saying that this is the reason why I, you know, just have my views. Like I said, people give them abilities, but then they give them the most stupidest tasks, right? Like, they have the ability to lift up stuff and travel through things. Okay, so they have powers or whatever, right? But yet their job is just to move a table slightly to the left, a plate from here to there. Like, why do you give them these abilities and then you have them doing the most stupidest shit, though? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? And, you know, the thing is that the more likely of explanation is people's own, you know, emotions, how a person works, right? When you're first watching a movie, a scary movie, you're cool, you're normal, you're whatever, you're like nothing, right? But now when you're stuck in a state of mind where you're watching the movie, you're actually focused in, right? Any, you know, loud sound or whatever, people get jump scared, right? It's because now you're stuck in that emotional state, right? So now let's just say, for example, if you were to walk into a house, right, you walk in and you're looking around or whatever, and the door closes. You're like, okay, it was the wind. When wind travels in, um, in the homes, how it's able to close doors, right? So you have a rational sense of thinking. Okay, now if I told you before you went in that house that house is haunted, and now you go into that house because now you have that in your mind. Now because you're stuck in that mindset, right? If I tell you that the house is, and then you go in there and the door closes, you're gonna think it's automatically a ghost, right? But because it's already been implanted in your head, your rational sense of thinking flies out the window. So anytime anything could be, an explanation for it, if you already have this in mind, then this is what you're going to focus in on instead of the rational sense of things, right? Like when people say, why do houses, creaking and stuff like that, when there's a science explanation for everything, right? Especially for the creaks in houses. But before, people didn't have this knowledge or are not aware of this knowledge, right? Not knowing that, well, your home is sitting, the sun is beaming down on it all day. What happens when heat hits materials? They expand. What happens when the materials cool down? They take their natural form back, right? Creating the creaks and cracks that you hear in a home. But like I said, some people aren't even aware of the science of things, right? Or not knowing how science works. But there's rational explanations for everything, right? But see, explaining the rational or the science things of stuff is complex, and it's just stuff that people don't find, entertaining, right? So they're just not willing to listen to it out. People are, better off just saying that it's a ghost because you don't need an explanation for that. You don't need to break down the science and you don't, you don't have people feeling, unintelligent or whatever, right? People don't like to feel dumb, right? So that's why they rather believe that it's ghost because they don't need, any thought for that. It's ghost there. It's as simple as that. You get people to believe this information more, right? Because it doesn't need any thought or any knowledge at all. Compared to this, where like explaining how all this shit works. Now, keep in mind, we are all aware of how science and now how stuff works, especially when doors close, when the wind travels into your home. Now, imagine back then in the times when we weren't aware of this knowledge, when people weren't as educated, and we lived back in the days. If wind travels like that and it closes the door, and we didn't have this knowledge, what were we gonna think that it was? It had to be a ghost. What other explanation is there? Because we didn't have them. Same with people who are schizophrenic. Schizophrenia has always existed. It's not a new disease. You know what I mean? So now let's say you have a loved one and now he's talking to himself and changing his voice and getting super strength like how people who are schizophrenic, display. Now keep in mind, if we're not aware what schizophrenia is, right? We're going to think that they're possessed or it's a demon. What else explanation could there be? You don't know about schizophrenia yet. So you don't know that it's a disease or nothing like that, right? So people are going to look at these people that are walking around like you see on a day-to-day, talking to themselves and tripping out. These people, of course, they're going to think that there were witches and demons and everything. What else could it possibly be? You get what I'm saying? That's why these stories have existed for so long and why people believe this stuff. Because of the lack of knowledge. Because at the time, people always want to know how something or why something is happening. That's just within our nature, right? And when you just don't have the answers, you're going to try to make the best plausible explanation at the time. So, of course, it was going to have to be demons and goblins and ghouls. And now we know it's schizophrenia, right? It's not possession. They were schizophrenic. Same, even, so, and these stories have been around for so long that people think that they're true, right? Because, they go back for so long, all over the world. But that was just man learning, right? Same way like these stories of these creatures and these monsters and stuff like that, right? Let's say if you lived in an area where you've never seen a bear before, a grizzly bear, because they're not native to where you were from, right? Then you travel, to where they're at, right? And you see them for the first time, these big-ass creatures with claws and sharp teeth and roaring. You know what I mean? You're going to go back to your village and tell them people how you just seen a fucking monster that was like, people like to exaggerate. They was like 10 feet tall. He had claws and you know what I'm saying? You don't know what it's a bear yet, right? So people think it's a monster. And then the story gets passed down and spread. And people start believing that these things are true when it tended to be a fucking, bear or alligator, or you know what I'm saying? But like I said, since they've been around for so long, they just become these stories, these myths that just feeds into people's delusion. Because of the lack of evidence. You know what I mean? All right, ladies and gentlemen, my lunch break is over. We got to get back to it. It was good chopping it up with you guys, and we out.